is the disheartening part of this whole thing, and we're going to find this the whole 4 days, because any single one of you we could have very long conversations with. But in order to ensure that we hear from everyone, we now have our second presentation entitled Specialist Family Violence Youth Worker Program Pilot, a dual case management model. And this is with Quantum Support Services. We have Paige Williams. Paige is the manager of the family violence case management at our Quantum Support Services. And Paige has worked in the homelessness and family violence sector for over 15 years and has a strong sense of social justice and human rights. And Pania Craig. Pania is the team leader for family violence case management at Quantum Support Services, and Pania has 10 years leadership experience with the community and family violence sectors and has a passion for keeping children at the forefront of their work, recognising children as victim survivors in their own right. Welcome, Paige and Pania, and over to you if you'd like to share your slides.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mandy. So thank you for having us, everyone. There we are. As Mandy said, we'd like to present our pilot program. We run a pilot program titled our Specialist Family Violence Youth Worker. So I guess a little bit about Quantum. We are based in Gippsland in Victoria. We have offices and provide service across Bairnsdale, Sale, Morwell and Warragul. We're partnered within the Orange Doors within both inner and outer Gippsland, and we provide a range of programs within our organisation, so ranging from youth programs, youth housing and homelessness programs, our care services, family violence, of course, and housing and homelessness services as well. Thanks, Pania. So I'd like to acknowledge the Gunai people as the traditional custodians on the land in which Pania and I are working today, and including elders past, present and emerging. We'd also like to acknowledge victim survivors and acknowledge the terrible impact of family violence on individuals, families and communities, and the strength and resilience of the children and adults who have and still are experiencing family violence. We pay respect to those who did not survive and to their family members and friends. So our youth worker program, our pilot, we commenced our pilot in March 2021 and commenced also with an evaluation by WLK Consulting. We initially, it was funded for 12 months as a 12-month pilot by Latrobe Latrobe Health Services. However, we did go through until June 2023. We had a few bumps along the road within the pilot, including our COVID responses, as well as a number of different recruiting issues as well. But we provide the pilot across our Wellington, Latrobe and Baw local government areas within Gippsland and service 12 to 17-year-olds. We designed the program to be embedded into our specialist family violence case management program and provide specialist support to young people concurrent with the adult victim survivor support provided by our case management service. We provided that in a collaborative integration of support, really, with a focus on the whole of family. We've provided trauma-informed support, all the while prioritising the developmental wellbeing and safety needs of the young person, alongside our response to the safety and support requirements of the adult victim survivor.
All right, thank you, Paige. All right, so in this presentation, we really wanted to highlight the themes that were identified throughout the pilot, starting with minimising barriers, which for us meant investing our time in creating a safe space for our young people. What we know for a lot of our young people that are displaying violence in the home or behaviours that are self-destructive is that they are often only seen for their behaviours, which tends to overshadow their individual experience. One of the most vital parts of our youth workers' role was to ensure that we're starting from a place that is informed by the young person's lived experience and ensuring their experience of family violence informs their journey throughout service delivery. Understanding who our young people are and what their truth looks like. Having a dedicated support from a specialist worker was key to making sure that our young people who are being identified as an adolescent using violence in the home are recognised as victim survivors. We already know that the pathway of their engagement with us has been via a victim survivor response. So having the two specialist workers work in parallel to provide a holistic and informed assessment became invaluable. We know that young people need to feel safe and respected for AVIF-specific responses to work. We know that they must have a sense of their own agency and want to participate in programs. So it was important for us to provide a sense of safety, earn their respect, and to deliver our support in a way that kept these young people wanting to engage whilst emphasising their choice in doing so. So we had a focus group that had come together to assist with the informing of the evaluation for this pilot. So I just wanted to read out one of the discussions that were recorded. The program throws a spotlight on the fact that young people are victim survivors as much as anyone else in the picture, and the ones that are given the least voice usually. This in some way would have had value to the young people in being acknowledged and recognised. I don't want to take away from family violence case management because case managers do this too. But the beauty of this program is its targeted support only to the young person, and the support being separate to the support that mum's receiving. Adolescent choice and adolescent voice. Another strong theme throughout our pilot. This is something that we really wanted to ensure that we maintain through the support of our young people. This meant ensuring that not only were we meeting the adolescents where they were on their journey, but doing this in a way where they remain the key drivers of what that support looked like, again, bringing it back to them having a sense of their own agency, having the ability to provide informed consent to participate and allowing them to inform and influence their journey moving forward. A strong component of the pilot was around the promotion of self-determination. For a lot of these young people, it was the first time that they had experienced this level of support and choice. What we've seen is that we had a lot of these young people come into our service, and for a lot of their life, if not all of their life, they remained in the shadows of the family violence that they'd experienced in the home. It was important for us to understand what their aspirations might look like, providing them with the steps and tools to achieve these aspirations. What we had seen for a lot of our young people was the burden of responsibility to protect others around them or to be protected by the others around them. Another key component of the pilot was the facilitation of multidisciplinary care team meetings and having the adolescents engaged and centred within these meetings. This provided further opportunities for the young person to feel supported in being heard. We see a lot of these young people not only displaying violence in the home, but also getting into trouble within community, in school, entering the youth justice system, and what is often prioritised and highlighted are their behaviours, but not what has been the root cause of these behaviours. This is one of the reasons why the dual case management model works so well. Not only do we have the ability to provide a holistic response to the family, we also have the ability to adapt our service provision further in supporting young people using violence, whilst working towards a common goal of increasing safety and minimising risk of harm. We had documented one of the client feedbacks received, which I'd like to read out. You helped me step out of my comfort zone. I never really wanted to talk to anyone. I've always been a person who would rather keep it to myself or just listen to music to make me forget about things. Now I can confidently say stuff to people who I guess need to know, or say things to someone I can just talk to. Another pair of eyes on risk and safety. As mentioned throughout, this pilot operated concurrently with our family violence case management and was integrated into the allocations function when receiving referrals for victim survivors of family violence. Having this additional pathway for adolescents using violence in the home embedded into our case management team meant being able to respond to the fuller context of co-occurring adult family violence in which most AVIF is known to exist. It meant being able to meet the needs of these adolescents who might have otherwise fallen through service gaps. We know that the experience of family violence is individual for each person impacted, including how they manage risk, their own safety, and how they cope. What was most integral for these young people who came through being identified as an adolescent using violence in the home is the opportunity to have their voices heard and their experiences acknowledged to then work through the behaviours that everybody was seeing. Just another piece of client feedback received I'd like to read out. The program really helped me and my family. It helped us get around the problems that we had. It was good. The only thing I wish you could have been there with us more than you did. I know stuff got in the way, so that's why we couldn't see each other as much. I understand. I really loved meeting a person like you. So to put that into context, that client feedback was received when our pilot came to an end. So unfortunately, yeah, we didn't have a specific youth worker role at that point in time going forward. But yeah, that also helped inform the evaluation throughout the steering committee meetings that we had with our key stakeholders and then with our clients that we were supporting as well.
So the smallest things can have the biggest impact was also another, I guess, highlight from our pilot and the evaluation. As you can see from Pania's discussions, it really was a specialisation within a specialisation, so a youth worker embedded into a specialist family violence program. And that youth worker's role was to recognise and respond to the needs of the young person in terms of what lies beneath the surface of the presenting behaviours. Case management supports were tailored to each young person, and we included the following supports. So practical supports, we were privileged enough to also have brokerage within the program as well. So we were able to utilise that to purchase things such as laptops for schools and for schoolwork and education where that was unaffordable for the family. They didn't, we received feedback for feeling inclusion in school and not feeling left out at school. It supported their engagement as well as their ability to be able to, working closely with schools to be able to continue their schooling. We included life skill support as well, such as resumes and applying for jobs. We had tools and education to help understand and moderate the behaviours. Where these were developmental and age appropriate. We had things such as the breathing box, where we were able to have an activity that most clients or most young people could use. It was a simple tool and was particularly helpful in moving through emotions caught up in survival of the flight, fright and freeze mode. Sorry, stumbling over my words. We also had goodie bags with us as well, which assisted our engagement with young people. So they had things like fidget spinners and textural fluffy blankets and feathers and things like that. So we were able to have, I guess, those textural tools as well. So we also were able to refer to external programs specific to a therapeutical and psychoeducational focus. We have a fantastic program in Gippsland called GOTYA, which stands for Gippsland Outdoor Therapy and Youth Adventures. And we also have the Adventuring Mentoring Program, or AMP. We were able also then to also refer through to high-level therapeutical support and trauma-informed care, such as arts and creative therapy or therapeutic life story support. the evaluation found the program aligned with the majority of the pillars and principles for collaborative practice found in the AVITH collaborative practice framework, appropriate to the program as a short-term pilot. So thank you for that. I'll end with, I guess, our last of the client feedback, in that I feel more confident now. I can reach out for help now. Thank you for supporting me and my family. You always try to help me see the positive. So thank you, Mandy.
Thank you. I'm just reflecting in my head on everything that you've said. We have had some questions, and firstly, just the practice approach and whether you'd be willing to reflect on some of the challenges and benefits from the point of view of the service setting, locating your youth worker within a family violence. So that's part A. And part B is for your service users, engaging a dual approach with the young person and the adults. So adult victim survivors. And I just wondered if you could tease out your reflections on both of that, the innovation of your approach and how those are involved experienced it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we were lucky enough to have the evaluation commence pretty much at the start of the pilot as well. So that was really quite beneficial for us in terms of learnings along the way, and we were able to have the flexibility to modify a number of different areas, practice being one of them. We found very early on in the pilot that we really had to identify or recognise young people that may be using violent behaviours within the home were victim survivors in their own right, generally speaking, from either past traumas, past childhood traumas, including family violence from an adult or adult perpetrated family violence. And part of those behaviours were reactionary to the trauma, which places, I guess, adolescent violence in the home in a very different area to adult perpetrated family violence. Part of those practices were then to focus more on the youth worker support rather than with the focus being on a labelling of young people as AVITH or using family violence within the home. So we were able then to really start assessing risk and safety in the family as a whole of family as well. Does that answer your question, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I suppose how was that? That would be, as you point out, that's quite a different way it's often done. And I know it's moving in that direction. But how did you find that both the young people and the broader family navigated that in relation to their potential expectation that you would deal with the AVITH issue, or you deal with the adult issue, but not both?
I think we were dealing with both along the way, and that was the beauty of the dual case management. And one often assisted the other as well. So we had we worked with a family where the young person was very well engaged with our youth worker. However, mum in this case was a little bit us trying to engage her took a little bit more time. She was starting to, not answer calls, that sort of thing, starting to pull away a little bit from support. But feedback that we then had from the family was that mum started seeing the differences or the benefit to the support that I believe it was her daughter was provided with. So then started to re-engage with support as well. So we have, and I guess that comes into that extra eyes on risk and safety, and how one can bolster the other as well.
Yeah, really fascinating.
Yeah.
Really interesting navigation.
Yeah, as Pania said also, it was very much for a lot of the young people that we worked with, this was the first time that they had somebody just for them. And that came through again and again and again. And interestingly too, for us, and probably one of the most difficult areas to navigate, was that the young person's voice and their voiced experience of the family violence that they had experienced sometimes was quite different to the interpretation or the voice of the mum. So that was sometimes difficult to align, but bringing those two together.
Yeah, I can imagine the benefits of that actually in terms of derailing the enduring conflict that potentially can emerge in these situations.
Yeah,
we've had Samira say great work, Pania and Paige, and that co-location of youth workers and their experience has been amazing as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's with when designing the program, we're aware that we have family violence case management programs across the state, and we really wanted something to be able to not be simple. Nothing's ever simple, but we've got resources there that we can draw upon and embed extra service and bolster the service that we already provide.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it points to the fact that these areas can have, and do have their own very specialist skill set, which is what we've found working in partnership with the peaks around family violence and recognizing that we've all only got part piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Which is what that sounds exactly like. I suppose, wonderful that you embedded the evaluative process right at the start, because really it has so much value in terms of defining and setting up a successful program.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found it incredibly beneficial for those reflective practices along the way. So we had, our steering committee, for example, that we were able to look at practice. We were able to look at the program as a whole, how it was working and how it was working in conjunction with our case management model as well. And we were able to be flexible enough then to be able to change and modify along the way. Not big changes, but we certainly, as I said, I guess, would you agree, Pania, the biggest learning from that early learning was that labelling was not conducive with the program at all, or the intent of the program.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think we learned early on that sorry, getting feedback. I think we learned very early on that language was a huge thing with young people. I mean, it goes without saying. We mostly know that, but in terms of the context of family violence, these are young people who are already being identified with their behaviours. They're already being identified with being that troublesome child, getting into trouble at school, getting into trouble left, right, and centre, sharing the blame, or being completely blamed for what's occurring for them. However, being able to, I suppose, really give them the opportunity with understanding family violence in its context and what occurs for them within their home, and having our assessments, along the way, alongside family violence case management, really allowed us to give these young people an opportunity to feel heard, be centred, and be the key drivers of their support that they're receiving. And be recognised as victim survivors. I know we've said that more than once today, but I think that in itself is more important, because where do these behaviours come from? They are stemming from what's occurring for these people in the home, and as time goes on, as they get older, the opportunity to change their trajectory decreases. And that's when we see people entering prison and not getting into all sorts of trouble. So to be able to really provide an opportunity at an early age for these young people, we saw a huge benefit, and being able to embed that in our family violence case management team, I think works really, really well.
Yeah, it gets back to that being seen and heard, isn't it? And believed. Like not having your narrative changed because it's not the way somebody else who has more power than you has experienced it. I just think so. In terms of your evaluation, I suppose the obvious thing is, compared to a traditional model, which really you're reacting to, what were your findings in relation to the outcomes for the young people in terms of both their ability to and willingness to engage, because sometimes that can be a barrier in traditional models, and also their outcomes, your results. What do you want to reflect on that?
Sorry, we were just wondering who was going to respond to you, Mandy. Yes, certainly. Our results, I guess, we'd like to continue with the program. We need to get funding for that, though, so we'll be exploring that as into the near future as well. I think the results for the young person, or the benefits coming from the young people, is really having that restored sense of family, in working towards a whole of family approach. So those restored relationships and familial relationships, and also being able to be provided with guidance and techniques to be able to modify their own behaviour, and also take accountability for their behaviour as well. So, and safety plan around behaviours or feelings that they may have. So I guess the benefits for us, and that's what we wanted to see, was the restoring those familial relationships, having more engagement, positive relationships outside of the family as well. So broadening that out to school and community, and also, as Pania alluded to, the trying to place a support there before, you know, that magic number of 18, and then you get into an adult world, even though that you may not be equipped for an adult world too. So
yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting to see where you take it going forward. Thank you so much, Pania and Craig. Sorry, I'm so sorry that I'm getting a brain freeze there.
No, that's okay.
I paused because I wanted to get it right. And Paige, it was really interesting, and I love your experience with evaluation as well, and I'd encourage everyone to think about evaluation in that ongoing way, because it would deliver so much more value. Thank you very much, and yeah, we'll
thank you.
keen to hear some more
Thank
in the
you.
future.
Thanks so much, Mandy.